Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 18th edition of the Centonomy Entrepreneur Chats. The theme for this morning is managing money in your business. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have 9 minutes to go for us to start. So, kindly just confirm that you can hear me clearly as we wait for 10 a.m. for us to start promptly. You can grab a quick cup of coffee, some tea, or maybe some water. Get well situated. Ensure you have your notebook and pen because we are about to enjoy a serious and moderate conversation on managing money in your business. We're going to be hearing from our speakers today. So kindly just get ready, get well situated, and yeah, we'll be starting in the next 9 minutes. Karibuni sana. If you can hear me, just say a quick hello on the chat, just for me to confirm that you're hearing me loud and clear. Thank you so much, Evelyn. Thank you, Roslyn. Thank you, Luisa, Arnold. Hi, guys. So yes, so great. So you can hear me clearly. So our host for today, Mr. Kingori Muito, will be taking it away at 10 a.m. sharp. Thank you so much, guys, for saying hi. Hi, Mildred, Salima, Sally, Caroline, Modoni, Jane, Miriam, Fiona. Welcome to everybody who has joined us this morning. We are so excited to have you at Centonomy, and we are looking forward to enjoying the insightful conversations and learning about managing money in our respective businesses. Karibuni sana. We'll start in the next 8 minutes. Right.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the 18th Centonomy Entrepreneur Chat. My name is Kingori, and I have the pleasure of taking you on a journey to have conversations around how do you manage money in your business. We have a fantastic panel who are joining us. You guys are in for a treat. We have a panel from the region. We have seasoned entrepreneurs. We also have an alumni who's coming on board to just share. I want to welcome all those on our social media platforms here on Zoom. Thank you so much. We are up to 99 participants. Fantastic. We are also on YouTube. We are also on Twitter. We're also on Instagram Live. So send that message out, send that link out. uh, our tagline for today is hashtag Centonomy Entrepreneur Chats. Grow your business. Send it to your friends. Send it to your cousin. Anybody who needs to be part of this conversation, please just ask them to come on board. It's a fantastic time to be having this conversation. Um, and one of the things that I know we've been dealing with around this time of COVID is the whole conversation of entrepreneurship has really taken up, has come to the fore, and we are asking ourselves, what happens when I've lost my job? What happens if when my salary has been reduced? What happens when my significant other has lost their job or their income has been reduced? And now, as a family, we have to look at options. The government, as you're aware, is also keenly pushing this conversation out and telling people, especially younger people, go out, create employment. And I know some of you are wondering, so how do I even start that conversation? How do I know I have a good idea? How do I'm so afraid. You've probably seen one or two, three people who've started out and failed. And you're wondering, I mean, how do I even wrap my mind around that conversation? You are in the right place. Centonomy has a fantastic program for entrepreneurs like yourselves to walk you down that journey to how do I come up with that idea? How do I put it together and translate my idea into a feasible business? What are the things I need to be thinking about? If you're like me and mathematics, you are more mathematic than anything else. There's two sessions for you to be able to understand how to get into that space. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. So as we begin, again, my name is Kingori Muito. I'll be moderating our session. So just a few housekeeping as we get ready and have our
Yes.
speakers get
So
ready.
welcome,
A few
and you are
housekeeping. So as you join, when you're along, please mute your video. Please mute your mic so that we just cut down on the background noise and it'll enable us to be able to hear the speaker and to be able to share. Again, if you have a question, each of our after each session we'll have a short Q&A. So on whichever platform you are, please send out your questions using the chat function. We'll be able to take those and share those during the Q&A session. We'll also be sampling some of those and just presenting them to us individual speakers as we go along. So after each session, we'll have a short Q&A. So as you go along, please put in your comments, your questions, and we'll pick them up as we go along. If you have a burning question you want to ask the presenters, we'll also try and integrate one or two as we go along. So use the functions on the various platforms and just raise your hand and we'll be able to pick it up. And we continue with a wonderful engagement. Once again, welcome very much from wherever you're joining us. We are now at 118 and I'm looking forward also to getting the numbers on our various platforms. So please, if you raise your hand, have a question, throw it in. We'll be able to engage with you. If you have any issues with the technical, in your chat, you look for Centonomy. Those of you on Zoom, it's Centonomy 101. Those of you on the other platform, just look out for the Centonomy participant. They should be identified as Centonomy. Just send them a message to say, I'm having one or two issues, and they'll be able to sort you out. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the 18th Centonomy Entrepreneur Chats, where we're discussing managing your money in your business. Karibuni sana. Just 5 more minutes, and we'll be able to have our first presenter come on board and just begin this conversation. Once again, welcome. Send out those messages, tweet, put it on your IG story, and let's begin this conversation. Thank you so very much. I see our first speaker is here. He's a gentleman I had the opportunity to meet when I was a younger, more athletic person. He's a great gentleman, and a gentleman I have had the pleasure of interacting with. And his name is Kikonde Mwatela. He's an entrepreneur and the COO of Twiga Foods. I want to just share with you some of his thoughts. And as you look at his pic, you will see he has maintained his more athletic build, which I lost along the way. So Kikonde heads the operations of one of Africa's most innovative companies, planning and managing its supply chain. Twiga Foods, which I am sure a lot of you are familiar with, is a technology firm focused on creating linkages between Kenya's food producers and Kenya's markets in a reliable and predictable way. One of the key elements of any business is that reliability and predictability. Kikonde has held brief over Twiga's inbound warehousing and distribution operations since inception 5 years ago. He has also overseen Twiga's product portfolio growing, making it into Kenya's largest grocer with over 150 tons of fresh produce and fast-moving consumer goods turned over each and every day. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Kikonde Mwatela. Kikonde, karibu sana. Take us away.
Hi, Kingori. Thank you for making the time. Nice seeing you again. And thank you to the rest of the people who've joined. And thank you for this very warm welcome and very nice CV that you've shared. So thanks so much for that. Yeah, so I'm Kikonde Mwatela. I ran Twiga, co-founded Twiga 6 years ago now. When we started 6 years ago, our thesis was that the informal trade, or what people call the traditional trade, or sometimes called the general trade, would be the future of retail. And part of this was inspired by our own understanding of surroundings. Where do people shop? Where do people buy their necessities? And at the time, I was listening to an economist called George Aite from Ghana, who talked about the lack of support for the traditional sector in most African economies and how that has contributed to poverty, to political turmoil, and a host of other negative outcomes on the continent. And when back to Kenya, Australia, thoughts were, how can you help improve the traditional sector and make it well understood as actually contributing value? The irony is that a lot of people who've made significant way into personal wealth and personal success have done it through the traditional sector. There are a lot of fantastic examples. You think about Equity Bank, you think about Safaricom, these are businesses that have largely focused on where the vast majority of people are operating. You can't fail to see an M-Pesa in many parts of Nairobi or other parts of the country. The biggest supply chain in Africa is the fact that the tradition, and that's where the vast majority of goods are sold. And just for example, in Kenya, 96% of fresh produce is actually sold by Mama Boga. If you think about processed goods, basic consumer goods like flour, sugar, rice, or personal care items, the balance is more like 70% traditional and 30% modern trade. And that's your brick and mortar stores. And so what this means is that, first of all, the vast majority of people are shopping in this environment. And that's not where the vast majority of capital goes. Just as an example, if you think about credit, if you think about banking, for example, and then credit, I think it's almost 1% of all credit is actually given to agriculture, even though it's something like 70% of employment. So overall, the problem in this space is the nature of segregation means that people cannot plan. If you think about it from a supply chain perspective, or if you're a person who's running a business, if you're a farmer, it's very, very hard to grow a very, very large plantation of food. The buyers of that food are so massively disaggregated, which makes it very, very hard to plan how you're going to sell to this, consumers. So our thought was, if we could get retailers to aggregate their demand through a platform, could we turn that into purchase orders that farmers could then use to produce against? That would make things far more predictable, reliable, and they will be able to plan their production better. So we started with bananas, and people have often asked me why we started with bananas. Hindsight is always 2020. I'd like to claim to be a genius on this, but it was more an accident that occurred, which was we realized bananas was a significant part of any Mama Boga store. You'd go through multiple outlets of Mama Bogas and you'd always find bananas. And so that's how to provide a unique selling proposition to these Mama Bogas so that they could buy bananas. And what we realized with Mama Bogas is they to this point about money, is they had a cash flow problem with bananas, which was bananas are a climacteric fruit. So, technically what that means is when you pluck them from the tree, they are not ripe. And then they have to go through a process of ripening. And then once they're ripened, you can sell them. So most Mama Bogas used to do something called kurda, which is to ripen your bananas yourself. You take the green bananas, you put them in a box somewhere, and then you wait for days until they eventually are ripe. The problem with that approach is it takes a lot of time and money to do that, because you then have to hold a lot of inventory in order to be able to produce the bananas for consumers to eat. And very few people actually have the space in their outlet to do it. So many of them would be then relying on somebody else to do it for them. And of course, you can't do it to the technical level of excellence that you want. Like, a lot of myths come out around bananas that, a mushy banana is a good banana. But in reality, that just means that the banana was ripened in a very, very environment that was warmer than it should have been ripened in, which means it ended up being soggy. So we had to go through a process of learning how to ripen bananas. I'm going to tell you a funny story here about managing money, and this is about using resources to the maximum. So we went on Google and we learned what ripening actually looks like, and how do the global giants do it, Dole, Chiquita, what's the safe way to do it and do it at scale. So one of the things that people don't know about bananas is when you ripen 1 ton of bananas is 1 kilowatt hour of energy. So the thing is, when you ripen bananas at scale, which is what was our intention, what ends up happening is they produce a lot of heat. So if you go to a typical space, if any of you goes to like your store, and you're stocking up bananas or any other climateric fruit, and that means products like mangoes, avocados, passion fruits, you find it's a little bit warmer than the rest of the environment. And it's because they're actually producing heat. And so we built this very, very, odd structure. We learned how to temperature control the ripening process. So the thing is, when bananas start to ripen, you have to manage the temperature under which they're ripening so that the color development on the outside is excellent, but the fruit on the inside doesn't ripen faster than the color development. So I don't know if any of you have ever encountered bananas that are green, but they're ripe inside. There's a certain variety where that happens, but typically when you find bananas with that, what it actually means is that the bananas have actually ripened through a process of, they've ripened too in a warm environment. So the banana didn't get a chance to develop color on the outside. And then it ripened on the inside, the flesh got ripe. It's actually not standard, because then those bananas will have a very short shelf life. And so this was a major challenge for vendors, because even when they had ripe bananas, they had to clear them very quickly. And so they couldn't really plan their profit story and how they're going to make money off the bananas in a sustainable way, in a reliable way. So we started to think about ripening bananas, and then eventually, of course, we got experts, and we started working with Caro and and Kefis, and we built a protocol to ripen bananas. We hired a food scientist from straight out of university. She's 28 now. And we trained her on how to ripen bananas, and we used all the resources from the government and of course, even foreign consultants at some point came to the picture. But we were able to essentially perfect how to ripen bananas at a global standard in a safe way, which is a big issue in Kenya today. And that teaches, I think, one of the key things about entrepreneurship, which is making the most of your resources. A lot of times when you are starting your business, you have to build, not buy. You don't have the luxury of having a lot of money to go out and hire the best talent or get the best facilities or have the most sophisticated technological solutions. So what we did is we bought containers. These are containers that are used for transport, and we used them to build this ripening process with the team from Calro and Kefis, and we began to ripen bananas. And if anyone ever has time, you're very welcome to go visit our site where we do this at scale and develop the perfect banana ripening process for our environment. And it fills me with great pride when I talk about it, because oftentimes it's one of the best examples of how we did something with very, very little resources and got it to work because we focused on building the people, building our way of working, and then researching online and getting the best practices, and then of course bringing in people who could support us, especially researchers who understood this process better to make it excellent. Today, but when we started, we were selling about 1 ton of bananas daily. Today, we sell about 50 tons of bananas daily across Nairobi. And I'm proud to say that we've formalized something that was initially very informal, and we've been able to get banana growing up and running. And now we have contract farms, people growing very, very large banana farms across Taita Taveta, in Meru, in Kirinyaga, in Muranga. We're having farmers now starting to dedicate resources towards growing banana farms. people don't know this, but bananas at some point in Kenya were such a large commodity. They were the equivalent in terms of market size and share of pocket in a customer's hand. So they're extremely lucrative crop to get into. So if anyone is interested in growing bananas, let me know, and we'll chat on the side. But the key thing about this is when it comes to managing money, is often entrepreneurs, we make it seem like building a business is you build a business because you have the resources to do it. I like telling my story about Twiga. When I started, I had a very old pickup truck, and I had to go and build operations across 3 regions. That was in Taita Taveta, in a place called Marafa, in Kilifi, for those who know the place. For those who don't know, please don't feel bad. It's really, really far from anywhere. And in Meru and Kirinyaga, the central Kenya area. And when I went to Taita Taveta, and I had this old pickup truck, and I used to even sleep in the truck at times because there's nowhere to sleep. And when I went to Marafa, we do the same. When we went to Marafa, we went to develop pineapple value chains. And I remember going to Marafa and then discovering that there was no phone network anywhere in the area. So I went. So we would go to places. If you ever go there. If anyone knows the place, there's a lot of pineapples in villages. There's one called Changoto, another one called Nduke, and we would go to this place. We would find farmers trying to sell their crop, and it just also showed me that if you're willing to take a step towards building a business, you'll find people who are willing if they have a need. So we went there, and there were no hotels, obviously, in the middle of Marafa. It's about 98 kilometers from Malindi, and it was not feasible to travel back. So we formed a habit of taking turns sleeping in the truck as we counted pineapples from the farmers. And that's how we built the pineapple value chain. Today, Twiga is a much more different business. We now, I know King mentioned that we are moving 150 tons. It's actually moved up since then. That was a year ago. We're now moving 400 tons a day of product across the city, and we are expanding to other cities. We've already started doing Machakos and doing Thika, and now we are looking to go to Kisumu. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention with regards to managing money, because I was thinking through it and trying to understand whether you actually do manage money when you're an entrepreneur, especially at the beginning stages. And I highlighted like 4 things that I think are important when you're trying to manage money. And one of them that I'd point to is relationships are very important. And when we started talking to as farmers, we used to spend a lot of time trying to convince them to give us their crop when we are not paid them for it, which if you've ever operated in a rural setting is a very difficult thing to do, because they've spent so much time being let down by different players that they were very unwilling to concede to that. But over time, we got them to move to our digital systems. All our farmers are paid either through mobile money or through the bank, and we actually just work off invoices. There's a famous guy called Bob. Over time, we got them to move to our digital systems. All our farmers, he said he can travel the world on a handshake. And I've always kept that with me, because what he was trying to say was trust is very important. And managing money a lot of times is about building integrity and transparency with your customers and your suppliers. A lot of our cash flow problems as entrepreneurs, a lot of times is because of how we manage our suppliers. I'll tell one story. Right after we'd done all this and we'd built Twiga to a minimum viable product, we weren't looking for investment. and we were successful in getting that investment. A few months later, we lost 1/3 of that investment, and we lost it in the Chase Bank collapsed with our money. and I think that's when I really began to understand the importance of managing relationships in a very close manner. Because when that happened, we reached out to our suppliers, from farmers to suppliers in our warehouse, our transport and logistics suppliers, and we explained the situation transparently, all of them, and we promised to pay them, and we did. But the thing is, when we had that conversation with all these guys, what we realized is a lot of it was based on the fact that they were willing relationships to succeed, and they wanted us to be successful. And so for them, it was important that we did well. And so having the ability to manage suppliers and manage customers and being transparent and having integrity with them is also very important to managing money. So those would be my pieces of advice for anyone who's getting into entrepreneurship and thinking about, don't just think about the money, think about the people who either owe you the money or who owe money, and think about how to manage so that they align with your objectives as a business. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kikonde. Fantastic insights. Congratulations on 400 tons. That's a lot of tonnage.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it requires a lot of people to do that.
Tell me, also, as I invite people just to share your questions or comments in the chat, we had a comment on YouTube, and they're saying they're loving the content. So I want to continue to invite guys. We have Kikonde for a few more minutes. How have you grown from, what was your first amount, like your first shipment? How big was that? So that we can appreciate the journey from that to the 400 today.
Our first shipment was a pickup. So just about half a ton of bananas, which I think we sold over 3 days. So at the time we had a team of 6 people. Working in the business. Now it's well over 1,000 people working in the business.
Fantastic.
So a lot of growth. Yeah.
Fantastic. Chris is asking, how can I invest as a farmer? He wants to get your contacts. I think you'll still be around, and we can share on the chat some of your contacts. It's looking like people want to get into farming. And now I know I need to call my mom and tell her those bananas we've been eating. I know where we need to take them. But also, you brought up something that I thought is very different. Usually when people talk about managing money in the business, it's a cash flow issue. But you've talked about integrity. You've talked about relationships, which are not quantifiable in a cash form, directly quantifiable, but as you mentioned, are so important. How would you encourage somebody who is starting out? Like you mentioned, you started out by engaging those customers and just presenting your case. How would someone present their case to a supplier, to an initial investor, even family who you're looking to say, look, can you be my first investor? How do you build on that relationship? I think you alluded to integrity. Yes.
So I'd make the comment, and it's true. It's just always be transparent with everyone you're working with. I don't think there's any supplier who has not gotten our pitch on what we do and how we do it. And one of the important things that people often fail to do is explain what your business does and how it does it and why it's important for someone to give you that support. So with suppliers, when we started off, whether it was farmers, whether it was logistics people, truckers, and so on, we would always explain. We got the pitch down to Kiswahili, English, any language, but we knew exactly what we were doing. And that level of engagement encouraged people to start willing you towards success and wanting to be part of that success. So I would say
Fantastic.
that's a very important thing. And always be honest. If you're not going to pay on time, do not switch off your phone and disappear.
Yeah.
Just call your supplier and tell them, I can't pay on time. Let me just be honest. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that those are really critical, to have integrity, but also to be honest, even about the difficult things. When you're not able to pay, when there's a delay, whether it's occasioned on your end or, like you said, where you had the whole situation with your financial institution, to be honest and come out and just say, look, this is the situation we're in. Fantastic. I want to grab maybe 2 questions from the panel. We have Fiona. Did you start out as a side hustle, or was it a full-time business from the start? And essentially, they're asking, how did you test your concept?
So it actually started. It didn't start as a side hustle. When I committed to it, I committed fully. But yes, I was interested in agriculture, and so I kind of understood what the opportunity was. And I was very fortunate because we were able to. But yes, I had a seed investor at that stage who was willing to put the resources needed to get us to be successful. But I wouldn't say that I joined it and it was something I was doing while I was doing another job. As you can tell from the description of how the work was, I didn't have time to do pretty much anything else. So I wouldn't lie that it was a side hustle. It was a real commitment to try and achieve what we wanted to achieve.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kikonde. It's really been a pleasure. There are a lot of questions, a lot of comments, so I'll invite you to still keep on the chat, engage. Guys really want to hear more about your journey. And unfortunately, we are somewhat pressed for time. I think next session, we need to have you as, and even each of our speakers, just to come and share the journey, because there's a lot that people want to hear, to learn. Congratulations again on your success. It's really fantastic to be able to celebrate entrepreneurs like yourself and really just celebrating. I think for me, the take home is integrity and how it is so critical in managing cash flows as we go along. So thank you once again, Kikonde. Much appreciated. Please stay on, engage guys on the chat. Guys, Kikonde will still be around. Let's continue to engage with him on the chat and to get more insights from him. He'll also be sharing his contact, and you can be able to engage with him and to hear more. If you're looking to get into that business, please, by all means, jump in. And essentially, the conversation you're hearing from Kikonde is essentially what the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program is all about, is bringing on board seasoned entrepreneurs to engage with you, to give you their story, their insights, because this is about doing. And as you've heard, for him, you jump in, you make that commitment. So to share a bit more on his experience, we have a gentleman called John Kagai. He is actually an alumni of the program, and he's the founder and CEO of KJ Salon and Barbershop. So please join me in welcoming John Kagai, just to share with us his journey, his experiences. And maybe, John, as you have a chat with us, you could just take us through your journey before you came on to the program, what you learned from the program in terms of your highlights, and how those have been able to grow your business once you left the program. Karibu sana bwana John.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I guess you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. So thanks a lot for inviting me today. It's a Saturday, so we are kind of busy. I was up with a client, but they excused me kidogo na nimewambia wa join session. So they're in session as well.
Fantastic.
So I'm KJ, as Tonga said. I run KJ Salon and Barbershop. I'm a full-time hairdresser, and I'm also a multi-award-winning hairdresser. And I thank God for that. So thank you for this opportunity. So managing money before Centonomy was a hard task, because you see, when you're a stylist, when you're a hairdresser, you spend most of your time making hair. So getting to know the technicality about money is hard. So when I heard about this opportunity to join Centonomy, it was very exciting for me. And I decided to come on board to Centonomy to learn the same. And actually, after Centonomy, so many things happened. There were big opportunities that were within my business that I didn't know, that I came to know after joining Centonomy, after going through the entrepreneurship course. It was kind of hectic for me because I used to travel from Eldoret to Nairobi every Wednesday. It was hectic, but I managed. I learned about big opportunity and I started taking a flight instead of taking a bus. But we'll talk about that story maybe another day. So managing money is something very interesting. I remember before Centonomy, we used to have an annual turnover of like 2 million. Our salon was small. So we were very comfortable because we knew there was no money. So after learning the abundance, as in where there is enough for everyone, is now when we started to open up our business. If I compare from the time I joined Centonomy up to now, we used to do a turnover of 2 million, but nowadays, annually, tunachezea between 8.3 million, we're actually targeting 15 million. By the end of the year, this year, hata kama kuna corona, we are still hopeful the business will be okay. So one of the most important things I've learned is your team. There is power within your team that you may not notice. Like personally, I used to be very bad in managing finances. So I looked for, when I learned a big opportunity when I was in Centonomy, I started looking for a big opportunity within my business. And I didn't know I have someone who can manage money better than me, and we work together with her. So this is something that happens every day, even in a family scenario. Where you give your wife 1,000 bob, I want to pay 1,000 bob. Maybe you had 2K. So by evening, unajipata uko na 200, ako na 900. So you wonder who is a better money manager. So that was one of the biggest opportunity in my business that I didn't know. So after learning that, I decided, sasa hii mambo ya checkbook na hizi vitu zingine wacha nipeane kwa mtu mwingine who is better than me, and it happens to be my wife. So I decided to compare hizo, and since then up to today, my friend, hata sitaki kumanage hiyo pesa, yeye anajua kumanage, because she's a better manager of money than I am. And that is one thing people start to understand. Within your team, you can get someone who is better than you. You could be better in strategy, like I'm very good in strategy and seeing visionary for the business, but in terms of my managing money, in Gomu. But the simplest thing I've learned in managing money, one of them, the first process, you start a business. So you have to have capital. Let's say in this scenario, let's say you've already started the business. So you start the business, you've invested. After investing, you've marketed your business and clients are now flowing in. That is one step. Now you're making money. So after making the money, the customers are coming in, you're earning money. Now managing money now is the question. How do you manage this money? Well, you set your targets and the money is coming, you're meeting your targets. But one question you have to ask yourself by the end of the day is, yes, I made money today, but where did my money go? So the simplest way of managing money is to have a cash in, cash out, a cash book, as simple as that. When you have a cash book, you get, well, today I made 10 Gs. How much did I use? I used 2 Gs. So where's the 8 Gs going to? So if you start having that conversation with yourself, managing your money will be so easy, because the first step to knowing how you're using your money is to know how you're spending it. Because mifereji ya kutoa pesa inakuanga mingi, but ya kuingiza ni moja. So you need to check that. So that is one thing I learned when I was in Centonomy. In, out, you have to have a cash book, know how your money comes in and how it goes out. The next thing is your cost structure. How much rent do you pay? How much do you pay your employees? How much is your markup? You have to know that mathematics. But you can't know that, Kamoja, if you're not enlightened. You need to be enlightened. You need to sit in a classroom and be taught this is how these things happen. So when I learned about, especially the BMC, the cost structure, it really opened up my eye. Because now I was able to see, if this is my costing, this is what I'm remaining with for doing the business. So you're able to see if am I supposed to run this business? Am I supposed to close this business and start another one? Because if the margins are too small, then that means you're straining so much, because you could have so big turnovers, but the margin remains small. That means you're struggling doing business. So it is very important to know your cash in and your cash out. Especially, I would like to insist on the cost structure. Cost structure is very important to know how much money you're spending to run the business and how much money you're getting out of the business. But you can't know that if you don't do the cash in and the cash out business. It is very, really important. So apart from that, when your money comes in, you need to know, actually there's something we do, it's called a projection. But this one we do it together with our accountant, because now he tells us, we are projecting maybe this year going to make this income. And now after projecting is when you know how much money you remain with, if you want to expand the salon or if you want to diversify and do something else. But you have to know how much. I'll still insist that cash in, cash out. Very, 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 very important. So after attending Centonomy is when I learned all this stuff. And thank God today, I would like everyone to know your relationship and your money. The last thing I'll touch about is your personal finance. Personal finance is very important, because let's say I'm a self. Let's say you're an entrepreneur. You run your own business. You manage everything. So it is very important. It is very, very, very important to know how much money you're going to pay all the people you work with and your suppliers and everyone else, so that you're able to know how much money you're remaining with. But most importantly, your personal finance as the manager of the business. When you're running a business, if you don't manage your finances well, that means you'll still come, let's say, you'll still come into the cash box and get some more money from the cash box because you want to fix your things. So the first important thing, another thing an entrepreneur needs to know is how to manage their own personal finance. Because when you're able to manage your own personal finance, it's easy for you to run the business. There won't be an interaction where you're having directors' drawings from the business or owner drawing. You're getting money from the business to go and foot your bills. So it's also important to learn personal finance when you're learning to manage money, because when you manage your money well as a person, it's very easy for you to manage money for the organization. And that I think that is one problem you're having in Kenya, because many guys, even our politicians, are not able to manage their personal money. So it makes it easy for you to dip into the public coffers, because you cannot manage what you have. So it's very important for an entrepreneur to manage their own personal money before they manage the business money. That is all I have to say for today.
Thank you so much, John. Really, really appreciate it. In fact, yeah, you. If you could, I have you maybe for another two minutes. I really love what you said at the end about managing an individual as an entrepreneur, your own personal finance. That's a really, really key element. Maybe you could tell us how has that experience been for you as your business has grown and you've applied the knowledge you've gotten as an individual. How has that also helped the concept of your own personal financial management? How has that helped as an individual?
Actually, at first it was a really big challenge, because now I was not able to know how much I need to pay myself for, because now I'm a stylist, yes, in my salon. I'm a hairdresser, yes. I earn on commission, but as well, I also make decisions for the business.
Yeah.
It's like I also sit on the board in the business, because I have to make other critical decisions. Yes. So knowing how much I should earn was a big problem. But with time, we just did an ideal situation. If I had a manager or someone who is supposed to do the strategy, how much would we pay them? So I would say, because the business is mine, wacha nisikule mingi sana. If it's 100 Gs, I pay myself 50 Gs.
Yeah.
Just because there's an extra job I do for the business that if I had someone else, I would still be paying them, so that I don't get so tired. And I'm doing so much, but I'm earning so little, which makes me go back to get some money from the bank for my personal things. So I would say it's a learning process. You have to learn it slowly, a step at a time, but baby steps. Sometimes you get insights from people like such meetings, you get insights from people and learn the technique. But it's pretty rewarding when you learn how to manage your personal finance. It's important as an entrepreneur because when you master your own personal finance, the easiest way is to come up with a budget that you can be able to fund. You just assume that you are working for someone and they were paying you. So if they're paying you like 10 Gs, can I be able to manage the 10 Gs without going to get an extra 2 Gs from the business? If you can manage the 10K, then it's easy for you to run the business because now you want to go back to take the 2K from the business. So it's and it borders between, you have to be disciplined so that it's easy for you, so that you're able to kuacha pesa ya biashara ikae kwa biashara na pesa yako ikae kwako. Yes.
Fantastic.
So I don't totally, what I do, I personally don't handle any money in my business apart from my pay or apart from money I've been given to bring certain supplies to my business.
Fantastic.
So there are people who manage that. I just oversee, just oversight. Yes.
Fantastic. Before I let you go, I want to share with you what people are sharing as their comments. Sharon says, great insight. Gladys has given you thumbs up. Arnold is saying, I do agree with John. Personal finances are a major thing. What I would add on is developing a culture of payback. This goes a long, long way. So that just what you were speaking to, distinguishing between you as an employee of the business, but also you as an owner. You as an employee have your salary. As an owner, then you have your dividend, which comes from your profit at the end. Ivan says, thanks, KJ. Very, very insightful. Caroline says, wow, I like your attitude of paying yourself and getting a financial manager. Real insights. And she's also making reference to Centonomy 101. Then Gladys is saying she did not know that she should pay herself, which is a fantastic insight. A lot of entrepreneurs, like you're saying, you starve yourself, you pay everybody, and then you hope that something will be left over. Yeah. So as your parting shot, we hear you have mentioned you're an award-winning hairdresser. Where can we visit you? I want to give you this chance just to tell us where you are. If we want to visit you, when are you open? Yes.
Okay. KJ Salon runs from Monday to Saturday, from 7:30 to 7:30 p.m. 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and we are based in Eldoret, Azan Mall, on the first floor. But you can also get me on my, if you have any hair, nails, or whatever questions, you can get me on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. That my number is 0710 472 946. 0710 472 946. You can get me on that. But we are hugely on social media. Utaona vitu mingi sana. You can actually, even when you're lost in LD, you can just type salons in Eldoret. Ours will come as the first one. Tumefanya engine optimization kabisa.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, John. Yes. My only request, I know you're pressed for time. If you could just jump in on the chat, share your IG handle, share your number, and guys can get in touch with you and continue this conversation. But really, thank you so very much for just taking the time out to share your insights with us. We also want to say thank you to your client who's allowed you to share with us.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope they've also learned.
Yes.
And when you go back to the chair, make sure you're asking more.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, John. Really greatly appreciate.
Okay.
Cheers. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you have heard, we are continuing with this conversation. And just to quickly recap, what we have heard from the two gentlemen who shared with us previously is the idea around when you manage money in your business, relationships are really critical. Relationships with your suppliers, relationships with those who have lent you money, those you owe money, relationships in terms of building your team, appreciating where you're coming from. I really want just to go back to what John was saying, because at the end of the day, the program that we are putting out as Centonomy is really to get to a place where you're able to have the information, firstly, that you need to be able to make these conversations make sense, for you to be able to understand. I hope you were appreciating that some of the thoughts and terms that John was putting out, to understand your cost structure, to understand your opportunity, to understand how you grow your business, to understand your strengths, to look at what team do I need to bring in. to understand the accounting element. All too often, as we even are seeing on the chat, you as an entrepreneur, you miss the element that you actually need to pay yourself. And the question is, where do I pay myself? And I saw one of the questions is, what percentage should I pay myself? And those are the conversations we are able to engage with you when you come on board in the program, so that you're able to have a factual basis. And also then you begin to run your business as a business. All too often, and it's a sad situation that we find ourselves. We have a side hustle, there's this thing that you do, but you're not able to transition it into a business, so that as you're hearing from Kikonde, as you heard from John, that exponential growth, where Kikonde pick up to 400 tons every day, where John is talking about his move from about 2 million, they're looking at 8.3 during this year, and looking and projecting to 15 million. So how do you have this conversation? And it's important for you as an entrepreneur to be able to have the skills, the tools, and not even have to be an accountant. So really the program that we are putting out to you is to say to you, you can do it. There's opportunity for you to be able to engage in these conversations. And for those of you who are on, really, I want to also thank, guys, we are now at 163 participants. Thank you. Keep sending out word. If people are not able to register to join on Zoom, point them towards our social media platforms. We are streaming this live. And let's continue to have this conversation. And really, at the end of the day, and why we want you to be part of this conversation is to show you that entrepreneurship works. It works, and it is a viable thing for you to do. So without further ado, I want to bring in our next speaker, the gentleman I am having the pleasure of engaging with today for the first time. His name is Salum. Salum is joining us all the way from Tanzania. Thank you so much, Salum. We really appreciate you taking the time just to be part of us. Salum is the CEO and founder of SSC Capital, a corporate advisory and investment management firm. He is a certified international investment analyst. He is CIMA certified, a fund manager, and a venture capital expert. So for all of you who have questions on how to fundraise, this is a gentleman you should be having a conversation with. He has worked and advised for assignments worth more than $400 million over the past 10 years, having advised the government, multinational companies, local corporate firms, SMEs, development partners, and venture capital firms. He is also a public speaker, an author, fantastic, with 3 books, and an angel investor, having founded Tanzania Angel Investors Network. Salum operates in Tanzania, Rwanda, and Dubai, but identifies himself as a global citizen and a great advocate of Triple P business model, where you talk about people, planet, and profit. Please join me in welcoming Salum. Salum, the floor is yours. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you, and I thank you all, and it's my pleasure to be here and to be part of this wonderful session. So as I was introduced, my name is Salum Awadh. I'm actually based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and it's always great to connect with my friends from Nairobi, rest of Kenya. So as was introduced, I work for SSC Capital as the founder and CEO. Actually, my journey started 10 years ago. So before that, I worked for State University of New York and USAID, and then I worked for a pension fund. And then I decided to go straight to my entrepreneurial journey by building up an advisory firm. Actually, when we started 10 years ago, the idea was simple. I was looking at the numbers in the market, especially some of the challenges SMEs were facing, and of course still face to date. And one of the major challenges actually was access to finance. And access to finance, actually, to put things into perspective, I don't know about Kenya, but in Tanzania, I think it's the same scenario in many parts of Africa, with more than $10 billion worth of lending portfolio by all banks in the economy. Less than 20% of that money goes to SMEs. So SMEs still struggle accessing money, even though they account for more than 30% of the GDP, and they employ, for Tanzania, for instance, they employ more than 10 million people. So I say, what if we can really break that curse and unlock financing to SMEs, we'll see more growth, we'll see more job opportunities created, and of course for us will be a great business model. So that's how we started, and that's what inspired me to start SSC Capital by then. But we've been transforming the firm, trying to get more and more specialized, and now we are more specialized around finance and investment as our main key areas of focus. And in that space, actually, what we're doing is, one, we do very basic advisory. So we advise companies, we advise individuals, anything that has to do with money, finance, investment. And secondly, we also do capital raising as part of our investment banking services. So we help companies raise money. We work with the startups, and we do that through Tanzania Investors Network, as I mentioned, which is our initiative we launched in 2018, just to see how we could unlock access to funding, especially to pre-seed and seed stage companies which really struggle to raise money in the open market. On top of that, actually, we are also trying to see how we can link people with little savings that are looking for investment opportunities, but not necessarily they can access some of the opportunities that we see in the market. So people would have, say, the capacity to invest $100, $200, but they will go and hardly find opportunities in the market. So recently, we have also launched a crowdfunding platform, which tries to help entrepreneurs raise money from as little as $20,000 to whatever amount that they can raise through the platform, but also allowing our investors to invest in the platform from as low as $250. So these are some of the things that we do as a firm. Of course, we are planning, our vision is to be a Pan-African firm. So currently we also in Rwanda, and hopefully we'll be knocking the doors of Kenya soon. So in doing the work, actually, you have learned a lot of things towards one, at a company level, because as an entrepreneur myself and running a company internally, we have seen a few challenges around managing money and managing for that matter. But we've also learned a lot, actually, from clients, because that has given us at least a leverage to learn more about issues of money and cash flow management, because we serve clients, we serve customers from all sizes, from startups that have no revenue to multinational companies that have revenue in excess of $1 billion. So we have seen that the issue of managing capital actually is not specific to small business owners only. This is a big challenge even to companies that we wouldn't even imagine. But managing money, again, to me, I think is more at a personal level than a company level. So managing cash flow, you can look at it from the company level. How do you manage whatever that comes in and what goes out, which I think is critical for any company survival. But managing money is even more important, especially for the entrepreneur, him or herself, because if you can manage your finances well, trust me that you can manage the finances of your company. As they say, charity begins at home. So if you are not financially free, if you're not financially secure as a person, as an entrepreneur, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to manage the finances of the company, because as what the previous speaker said, you start be tempted to, drawing money from the company to your personal needs, which is really, taking money, from your married life in financing the expenses of your mpango wa kando. So it's really not a good thing to do for your company. So I may share a few things that I've learned over the past 10 years, which we still learn as well, which I think can also prompt other people to think more beyond what they look at the issues of cash flow management and managing their money. I know some of the things that I want to talk about almost a cliche, the things that people talk about most of the time, the things that probably you can read about, you can see everybody talking on YouTube, reading, but the question is, how do we implement them, when it comes to practicability of these things? So you may know a thing or two about pricing, but how do you really do pricing when it comes to your own company? So one of the major challenges, so I speak about two things. One, on cash flow management and the challenges that we have faced as a company and myself as an entrepreneur, and the things that we've been trying to do to manage your cash flow. But at the same time, of course, I'll just touch upon a few things about managing money. So in cash flow, one thing that I've learned is actually you may see a company struggling. You know, you're doing sales, you see revenue coming into the company, but every month your revenue really fails to meet all your expenses on that particular month. And sometimes we don't even know why is that the case. We think probably it's the question of probably we are having more expenses, we are locating offices, we are retrenching staff, and then probably few months down the road you find yourself almost in the same spot that you were 3-4 years ago, because you haven't actually addressed the problem that brought you to that position in the first place. So the first thing that I look at is the pricing. How do you price your services and how do you price your products? I think we all know about how much it costs you to make a product, or how much it costs you to deliver the service that you deliver. So if you manage to work that out, the model of how much you spend for each unit of the product or service that you sell to the market, and how much you sell for, that will give you a scenario of whether whatever that you earn can really even pay back the cost that you spend on making that product, even before making any profit on top of that. So I've seen many people doing what we call copycat pricing. You go to the market, you see Twiga Foods, the way they price their services, you learn about their pricing model. You also want to launch the same business. We also copy the pricing model that they use, but you don't know the internal dynamics of the company. You don't know how they came about that pricing. At the end of the day, you find yourself in deep trouble and not managing your business finances when it comes to cash flow. But another thing I think which is also important that we also face as entrepreneurs, especially when we're starting, and we tend to spend money before we earn it. So you have all these plans laid out. It's good to budget, it's good to plan, but you start going actually into commitments. You call someone to come to your office and replace the carpet of the office. You call someone to come and replace this, replace that, because you expect down the road 3 or 4 weeks you earn some check will be able to pay all these expenses, and then things might happen unexpectedly, and you might not be able to cash in the money, and then you find yourself into debt, and this really can start disturbing your cash flow equation. But again, of course, I think we also have issues when it comes to debt. So at a company level, we don't take debt. I've been trying to avoid debt as much as we can over the past 10 years because I see at times debt could be good because you need sometimes additional financing to expand your growth, to finance your growth. If you can really manage your debt, whether at a personal level or at a company level, debt will always be a burden. And the problem with debt is when your debt matures and you're not in a position to pay off your debt, we tend to borrow again from another lender to pay off the maturing debt. And then as a result of a period of time, if you cannot really your debt well, you might find yourself in what we call a debt trap, where you find yourself in debt, or which I think is not a good thing for a company. And then I think we also tend to underestimate small expenses. Of course, this again applies to company and personal level. You think you're going out, having dinner, putting more credit to your phone, putting more bandwidth to your phone as well, paying a TV subscription every month, going that place, having coffee, maybe you go to Java and have your cup of coffee maybe 3-4 times a day if you're a coffee person, and you think these are very small expenses. But to be honest with you, actually, it's a small leak that links the ship end of the day. So if you cannot track the expenses that you do because you think these are very minor expenses that you incur on your daily basis, end of the day, when they compound, they really become a big part of your bill. Actually, if you do your numbers well, sometimes you might find even coffee accounting to 3 to 4% of your total expenses on a monthly basis. So it's very critical for us to always track even the small expenses that we spend on. But when talk about money, managing our money, again, I think almost same stuff. One of the things that I usually talk about is we need to separate between our wants and our needs, because at times we are really confused about, because always the resources are limited. So when you have X amount of money in your bank account and you have a list of things that you want to do, a list of things that you want to spend on, which ones do you prioritize? So sometimes we prioritize things based on urgency. Sometimes we prioritize things based on preferences, without looking at, do we prioritize things based on wants? What are the wants for your life and what are the needs for your life? So the needs usually come on top of everything. So the likes of food, home expenses, maybe fuel for your car, if you have a car, in things in that basket. And then once you spend all your money for your needs, if any money that is left, that's when you probably can allocate a small percentage of it for your wants, and then probably the other percentage of it for investment. And then lastly, I just want to touch upon the issue of investment. Actually, money doesn't grow on trees. So if you earn money and you keep your money in your bank account, over time, as we all say, it tends to lose value over time. So this is not something new to most of us. And again, if you cannot really find a way at least to invest small amounts and build your portfolio over time, we'll always have money. We'll always have money issues. Because I tell you one thing, as they always say, of course, this is the talks that we always hear, that Warren Buffett started investing, I think, $100 to $200. But investing, actually, when you start investing as a routine. Actually, you don't start investing for immediate investment return. So you just build the habit of investing. So you can even start investing $50 a month or $100 a month over time. And then once you understand the dynamics of investing, whether you're investing in stocks, whether you're investing in small businesses through crowdfunding, you build the habit of investing, you build the knowledge of investing. And then once you're in a position that you know more about investing, you know more about the risk return relationship, then you can start now investing more of the money. And actually the return that you generate from your money actually in most cases will come at a rescue when you're in deep trouble, as what we've seen now with COVID. So if you had few investments here and there, probably you could liquidate your investment and your money and make your expenses while waiting for things to get back to normal. So investing is a critical element when it comes to managing money. So managing money is not really just, as people usually talk about, spend less than you earn, budget, separate your business and personal expenses. So these are very basic stuff that we can all do, but it's very important for us to understand that investing is part of money management, because it helps you to add more money, and it also helps you to manage even when you have emergencies, and because you have an emergency at a personal level and you didn't have any savings or you didn't have any investment that you can liquidate to meet your emergencies, you can always go back to your company and draw some money to finance your personal emergencies, which to me, I think is usually a start of the problems in a bigger picture, by disturbing the cash flow at the company level. So I would like to start from here, and I'll be happy to stay if there are any engagement further, if there are any questions, if there are any more clarifications required. I'll be happy to share more experiences of the things that we have been doing over time. Thank you, and asante sana.
Thank you so much, Salum. There's a gentleman who says George says hi. He's also in Dar es Salaam.
Oh wow!
So he's also joining us. Yeah. So thank you so much. Really well. So just want to appreciate the conversation that you started and engaging us, and just some of the things that you shared. I want to begin with a question. Anne was asking on the issue of debt. When you talk about debt being a bad thing or something that needs to be managed, are you referring to borrowing, or are you also talking about credit that a business will lend to suppliers or get from suppliers?
A good question. One, I think, is both. Debt, as in taking debt to finance your business. Sometimes we tend to take debt that we cannot afford. I don't know about Kenya, but if you look at Tanzania, for instance, you see small business owners, because they cannot access debt from the traditional commercial banks, which will probably give you a very competitive interest rate, will tend to go to microfinance institutions, which will probably give you an interest rate of 5% a month, which actually is 60% interest rate a year. So such level of debt costs can have huge daunting effect on your cash flow as a company, because for you to pay back that level of debt, actually you need to have a business that will give you an operating margin of more than 20-30%. So it's very important to understand the debt that we take, in whether we can afford to pay off that debt. But again, on the other side of the question, giving credit as well is very important for you to plan it. Because sometimes we're desperate and we have a fear that probably if I cannot sell on credit, I might not be able to close a sale, or maybe I might not be able to close a big contract. But we need to understand that two things that we need to manage very well when it comes to selling on credit: our payables and our receivables. If you have your payables maturing faster than your receivables, then you always have problems with cash flow. So even if you sell on credit, make sure that selling on credit is well timed over you paying your payable, because you also have suppliers who probably supplying to you on credit, and you're also selling your services to customers on credit. So you have to have shorter period of you getting money from your customers than the period that you're paying your suppliers on credit. So it works both ways.
Fantastic. So the idea is, when you're going to borrow from a financial institution, appreciate what the actual cost of that money is going to be. And if you're going to be extending credit from to your suppliers or receiving it, make sure that that's also balanced, because it also has an impact on how much money you have out as opposed to that which is coming in. No, fantastic. I want to share a few more insights. Guys, thank you so much. I'm seeing the comments coming through. We have one saying we're loving the content from one of the Centonomy guys who are managing. Docker says, separate wants from needs. Thank you, Salum. Caroline says, wow, that is what we learned. I'm glad to have learned it from the big establishment. Costing is very, very important. And I like the debt management principles. Victoria says, wonderful insights. And Joseph is also saying, loving the insights. Another question. Usually as a business, my value is when I come and sit in front of a gentleman like yourself, or an entity like yours, where I'm looking for an investor. I'm looking for investment. You know, we hear about IPOs. We hear about all these things the company was sold for. We hear that Mike Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett are worth so much. As part of the journey of building a business as an entrepreneur, what is the role of that external investing? But also, what do I need to have? And I think sometimes I believe, because I have a business, I have a fantastic thing. So everybody should be able to put in money. But is that always the case? And what would you as an investor be looking out for?
Good question. Tough one. So I would say, first of all, as a company grows, there's a stage that you need to get some sort of external financing to take you from one level to the other. I think the common story is people come up with the ideas, entrepreneurs see a problem in the market, and then they build up a prototype or design a company, come to the market, and probably in the first few years you can bootstrap. Maybe you had some savings. Maybe if you worked somewhere, you had a few savings from your salary, then you can use that to start your company. But over time, as the company now starts expanding, there are more requirements for the business. You want to save more people, you want to expand to more markets, you need to hire more professional people, maybe you need to invest in technology. All these things now will require investment for you to be able to move from the stage where you are to the next stage. And if you really depend on your own savings, or you depend on your own earnings that you make after your profit, it's going to take you a long time for you to grow. So for you at least to grow at the level that we see many companies actually growing now, you need to have an external financing support. And that's where you see the need of having an external investor, because you only have a few routes for you to go through. You either go to a bank and get a bank loan, or go to the public market and do an IPO, which will probably not be an ideal for many small companies. And then the only place for you to go is to get an investor. So depending on the stage where you are, you may go to an angel investor, or you may go to a venture capital investor, depending on the stage and the funding requirements that you have. And then the importance is critical. So unlike banks, what banks usually do is I've no anything against the banks, but what banks usually do is they give you the money and then they disappear. The moment you start skipping your installments, that's when banks start calling you. So they don't provide any support for you to grow, to generate the cash flows that you need to finance back the data they gave you. But when it comes to investors such as an angel investor is someone that gives you three things. They give you the money, they give you the technical support, like mentorship and coaching, and also give you the network for you to grow. So an external investor comes to you, actually does not just give you the money, they also give you some additional support for you to grow. It's the same thing with a venture capital, because the venture capital investor actually is not just someone with the money, is a fund manager, but someone with technical knowledge about managing and growing businesses. So they help you to grow your business, introducing best governance practices, maybe building a team, building your strategies for you to grow. So you see that there's a huge difference between a company that has received an external investor with that caliber and a company that has not. So when you go to an investor, having a great idea by itself is not enough for you to get an investor to cut you a check. It's more than that. So an investor wants to see confidence in you, wants to see the future in you, wants to see the vision in you, that if I give you my money, I'll be able at least to get my money back with a return a few years down the road. So there are so many things that probably someone will want to be ready with. Of course, it comes down to the investor that you're going to talk to. Each investor probably will have different things that they're looking at before they cut you a check. If you're going to an angel investor, in most cases, they just want to look at a business that, one, I think this is almost like a cliche, what problem are you solving in the market? Because the belief is if you're solving a problem, that means you already have a demand and people who are willing to pay you if you bring the solution for the problem that they're facing every day. So one thing is, what problem are you solving? But secondly, how big is the problem that you're solving? Because that will determine the scalability of your business. So nobody wants to invest in a company that has a limited growth potential. So you invest in a company that can grow to as crazy as we will see other companies growing today. So you see what Twiga Food is doing, massive, because African economies, the majority of African economies are culturally driven. So if you can bring a solution to the cultural sector, trust me, you have a scalable business model. So things that probably want to see, but again, of course, is you as a person, the way you present yourself, the things that you know, and you being honest, the things that you don't know. The challenge is you see some entrepreneurs going to see an investor, and when an investor asks you some questions, even the questions that you don't know, you pretend you know, because you think if I say I don't, I might get away this. You always have to be as honest as possible, because the moment you tell a lie is a red flag for an investor to work with you, because that now comes down to an integrity issue for you as an entrepreneur. So there's so many things that we can look at. I think it's for another day, but these are some of the basic stuff that probably investors look at when you go and want them to cut your check.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much. I like that you've come back to the whole question of integrity, and that seems to be a running theme in today's session. They need to be honest, and if you don't know, you put it out there and say, look, I don't know. And you actually answered another question that Reza had asked. Do investors look more at company products or how fast they get their money back? And based on what you said, it's a whole array of all those components. What is the problem you're looking to solve, which then means you have a business, but also how big is that problem, which says then how scalable is the business. One last question. Evans is asking, is there anything like cheap money? What is that?
Okay, so there's no cheap money as long as it's other people's money. Because every man is hard-earned. So you may talk of, maybe may use another word, not necessarily using cheap money, maybe using the word such as affordable money if you're comparing two options. So if someone wants to go and lend and borrow the money to finance the business, of course, there's a huge difference between borrowing the money from equity from borrowing the money from a loan shark somewhere in Nairobi. So that would give you which one is more affordable than the other, but it's not really cheap money. And then probably when you talk about financing companies, I would rather use the word capital rather than money. So with the moment you use the word capital, it also includes you hiring people that will give you the work that you will probably paid for in the open market by borrowing. So my point is, if say you need money to hire an accountant or someone with a technology, a software engineer, but because you don't have the money, you may probably look for an external financing for you to pay that person, which at times might be a bad decision. But if you're talking about capital, because you're talking about capital, human resources is part of the entire talk of capital. So because it's a human capital, so you can get this person who can come on board in exchange of affordable instrument that you can use rather than borrowing. So you can say you can give 5% of your company to someone who will have massive impact on your company in growing, rather than borrowing from a bank and take debt that will have huge, massive in the balance sheet and sustainability of your company. So that could be available and affordable capital rather than using the word cheap money.
Excellent. In fact, even Evans is saying, yeah, affordable money. No, thank you. I think you've also raised something that's interesting. That around managing your money as a business, sometimes it's not even simply about actual cash. So you have a network that you can call on. And like you're saying, issues of can you issue equity as opposed to borrowing? So there are alternatives that people can engage in terms of developing their business and managing the money within the business. Salum, I really want to thank you for the time. I see Victor is saying, hey, Salum, nice to hear from you. I'd like to connect with you with your Rwanda office. So I'd invite you to continue just to be with us, to join, jump in on the chat, share your contacts. There are a few other questions from a few. I think Evans also has a follow-up question. But really just to appreciate you once again for taking the time to join us all the way from Dar es Salaam and to share your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, Salum continues to be with us. He's just shared his telephone number. Jump in, get in touch with him and continue to share. And Salum, many, many thanks once again. Shukran.
Thank you, brother.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to have excellent conversation. Let me also remind you, we are live on the Centonomy social media pages. So jump onto our YouTube, our Twitter, our Instagram pages and continue with the conversation. We have Salum with us on the chat. We are now at 162 participants. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Really, I'm loving the engagement. And I'm especially excited about the next conversation, and you guys are in for a treat. We have a lady I have had the pleasure of interacting with in the time that I have been part of the Centonomy team. And in many ways, she's a lady who is very modest in her presentation. And when I was given the briefing notes, she had a very simple statement. She's an entrepreneurship coach, an author, and of a book known as Making Sense, and the founder of Centonomy. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Waceke and Nduati. Many, many, many ways is the reason we are able to be having this platform. Waceke, welcome, and over to you.
All right, thank you, Kingori. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, we can definitely hear you. Let me, yes, now we can see you.
Okay, great. You know, with technology these days, it's always first good to do that sound and visual check because you never know what the Wi-Fi has decided to do. But thank you for having me. Thank you for the excellent conversations. I think it's one of those topics today that I'm like, it has been handled by other people, by Salum, the other speakers, yourself. I really it's going extremely well. But I just want to encourage everybody and say hi to everybody. So glad to be here today. And I know we're talking about money in the business, and I just want to take a different twist as we think about it. So we've heard a lot about money. And please just confirm, people who are on screen, that you can still hear me. It's just good to get that confirmation. I seem to have lost Kingori for a bit, so just confirm that you can actually hear me. So as I was saying, today I just want to take a different twist to the conversation. Great, thank you for confirming. Yeah, because even as we talk about money, I think we're in a season that all of us entrepreneurs, as we're doing business, we have to realize that business is now going to be done differently. So even as we investigate the role of money, how to get money, how to manage money, how to make money for ourselves, we just have to look at things quite differently now. And that's what I want to actually touch on today. So we seem to have a blueprint in our lives from the moment we were born. Yeah, it was go to school, get a certain job, get married, have kids. I don't know if I've missed anything where, and life should turn out a certain way. So there was this blueprint and there was this checklist. And I think what has happened to us is that blueprint has been torn apart. Yeah. And I guess even with business, we've got to understand there was a blueprint of how we were running business. But I think even as no matter what stage you are in the business, some of you are here starting, some of you are in business already, some of you have been disrupted. I think the lesson for all of us is to start at what blueprint was I following or was I going to follow, and how does it need to change? Now, I love the story of David and Goliath. And ever since coronavirus happened, that story has been in the back of my mind. And I know all of us pretty much know the story of David and Goliath. And in a nutshell, it's David the underdog. This is how the story is mostly told. David the underdog came out and beat this big guy in the army called Goliath. And we take inspiration from that because David was the underdog. But I want us to understand that story differently and understand that David was never the underdog. Yeah. Yes, he was smaller. Yes, he was not in the army, but he was never the underdog. When you read that story, and I'd like all of you to go read it and look at it from an entrepreneurial perspective. There's a way David, when he was working as a shepherd, it prepared him, because while he was a shepherd, not only did he get patience and discipline by doing that, but he was also able to, I think, kill a lion and a bear with his bare hands. Now, everybody else was scared about Goliath apart from David. David saw that he could do it, and he had a purpose to why he was actually doing it. And he went and beat Goliath with very simple tools. He even refused to wear the armor that the other people were trying, like the king was trying to make him wear. So this is what I want us to understand as entrepreneurs. And most of us today, we are in that category of entrepreneurship that is called SME. And the blueprint has been, there's a path you have to walk so that we can be like the big giants. So my ask of us today is, let's not try to be Goliath. Yeah, because I think what is happening now, we are seeing Goliath ways being disrupted. And Goliath can be who you think your competitor is. Goliath can be a company you aspire to be like, and Goliath can be a system, a financial system, in fact. Yeah. So I want us, as we go along, and said, yes, this is how we've been told to grow our business, get more customers, get an investor, look like you're doing well. Yeah. Hire many more people. And I want us to really ask the question, why are we doing that? Yeah. Then money will fall in place. Yeah. So when we first started, and a lot of times in Centonomy, before we were doing a lot of online things, we were doing physical events, and we'd try and get sponsors and partners for that event. And when this started happening, we were talking to a potential sponsor partner. And, big companies, sometimes they're like, oh, you need us. So these are our terms. This is where we're going to pay you, no room for negotiation. And when this happened, they were still actually bringing to the table. Yeah, I no longer need a hotel. I no longer need that. So what are you actually bringing to the table? We are now online, so it's it's a level playing field. What are you actually bringing to the table? And we realized what it is we wanted to do with them, we can do without them. So even you, as you're thinking about, I need this, what are the you actually have that you're not realizing you can start? So number one, I want to talk about vision. Don't aspire to be Goliath. And when I say Goliath, it's things like being big for big sake. Goliath was, there are many corporations out there that are giants. And all these stories we hear about all these great companies, they are giants, yeah? So when we were thinking of growing before, so many people were telling us and telling me along my journey in Centonomy that I have to open branches all over. I have to be in Mombasa, I have to be in Kigali, I have to be in Rwanda. Yes, I want to expand, but now I'm starting to think differently. I don't have to open physical branches. So for your business, it could be things like that you need to actually rethink, yeah? Are you a mechanic and all you need is one service center, but then you can have people working and can service cars from all over the place, yeah? So it's just to start thinking, what does expansion look like in this new world we're operating in? It doesn't mean don't think big, but it means think big differently. So it's not about necessarily more shops or more branches or more employees the same ways that need big investors to come your way. People are now realizing that even when I need people, I don't have to have full-time people all the time. There are people who I can contract to work for me for a certain time. Because on the other end of things, employees are also realizing one of my opportunities is I've lost my job, but I can contract myself out to 3 different people. I don't have to work for one person. We've got to think, yes, you might have thought I need this person who will be so expensive, but is there a different way of actually doing it? Because where we are going, it's not about growth for growth's sake or for profit's sake, yeah? David, in you read the story, he had a deeper why than Goliath. Why he went after Goliath as opposed to everybody else is like, why? How can Goliath defy the armies of the living God? Those are the exact words in the Bible story, yeah? So why are you doing what you do? Salum already talked about what problem are you solving. So there's the why for the greater good. This is the problem that I'm solving that relates to my products and services and what I'm doing to customers. And why for you? Why are you doing this? So even as we try to make money for ourselves, why? What do you see happening in your life that is important enough for you? Because if you don't understand the why, we tend to start making the mistake of, even when we do make money, we are starting to use that money to please other people. So the money mistakes that have been made by thinking like Goliath about growth as opposed to a David is we idolize big revenues at the expense of well-run businesses. In Kenya, we had a supermarket, fantastic supermarket. Kingori, I don't know if you feel the pain of Nakumat the way I feel the pain of Nakumat until today, yeah? Fantastic supermarket as far as the customers were concerned, yeah? And it was one of those top companies. We aspired to be in Nakumat. But what came out, the company fell. What came out at the end of it is the company was not managing its money properly. So it had a cash problem, yeah, as a result of poor governance and just poor structures in the business. So a lot of times we hear all these awards of companies being given, and we are being told these awards are for companies that have 100 million shillings, or let's say $1 million plus. So we're in this system where we idolize the revenues, yeah? But what you realize is sometimes the profit is so small, or there's no positive, what we call positive cash flow in the company. It doesn't matter how small your company is, get your cash flow right. Meaning, very simply, is this business, forget about how big the revenues are, even how big the profits are. Am I generating money in my business? Yeah, am I cash positive? Another thing Goliaths tend to have is big expenditure. Yeah, we are now in where they are heavy. Yeah, do you need an office? Have you been caught up trying to hire consultants to tell you what you already know or you can find out? So with money, once you understand, okay, this is how I can, this is my why and how I can think about it differently, you start to understand maybe the things you thought you need, you don't actually need. I think many businesses, we are now realizing actually maybe the office, I don't actually need. Yeah. So first one is vision. Secondly, remember Goliath was heavy. He did. When it comes to money, ask yourself, what are you struggling for? Are you struggling to pay rent? Is paying rent your core business? Then call it, if that's what you're struggling to pay and it's not part of your core business, remove it. Because a lot of people in this event, they're like, oh, I'm struggling. Why are you struggling to pay rent? To keep looking like you're doing well, you've got to just call it, yeah? Are you struggling to pay the right people or the wrong people around you? So don't just do things that look good on paper, like having an office or having a staff count of a certain amount of people. Evaluate all expenses that are not around delivery and improvement of your product, because this is what it's about now, about that and fulfillment of your purpose. So in other words, shed the fat. And how we starting this is by literally going and understanding, where does money go? We call it bookkeeping, we call it accounts, but what we are really saying is understand where money goes. Don't wear heavy armor. Anything that is not about your product and your service, be extremely lean on it. You are not in the business of stationery. You're in the business of providing meals to people. So why are you spending so much money on stationery? So we've got to really start asking ourselves. We are in that point, even as Centonomy, we are looking at our office and saying, hiya, the world has changed. Are we in the business of providing a physical training venue anymore? Maybe there was a season for that, but now the season has actually changed. And also, when it comes to our individual personal financial responsibility, don't money impressing others. There's so many times as I teach the entrepreneurship class and people are like, oh, but I've got to drive the right car so that I get business and I look good. That is just heavy armor weight, yeah? Because you're buying this big car, taking money from your business to buy this big car to impress other people, that it has nothing to do with the business. I've had clients who their business has gone down because they went and took money from the business and to buy a big car so that other people can think they are doing. Also, it requires us to have personal financial responsibility. David, it was not about, just as I wrap up, it was not about his skills in the army. He did fight Goliath because he had those skills, but he knew what he had. Do you know what you have? So growing a business was, today I have to know all the right people. I have to have degrees. I have to have traditional experience. So do you know what you have? Maybe it's that creative skill. Maybe it's that organizational skill. I know there's a time we were pitching for a job when we had started amongst Goliaths in our industry. And what we did was go and treat the people who were pitching the job to like students in the class, rather than this big tender document they had given us to do, because we knew we could not win with that. Yeah. So for you as a David business, you've got to start making sure that you change the playing field to suit your skills. So what we did for that job is that, because we knew our skills were what we were good at, better than the Goliaths were, being able to teach and communicate money. So we created a short presentation and taught them like individuals. We talked to them about their retirement plans, their debt, their children's school fees, and we got the job simply by using what we have. What the other Goliaths had of big training venues, big profiles, we did not have, yeah? But we got the job and we still have that client until today. So as an SME, we tend to have so much that the big companies don't have, and we waste a lot of time trying to be like the big companies. First of all, we are small so that we can grow. We have somewhere to grow. So that's just understand that as an opportunity, yeah? We have somewhere to go, yeah? Many Goliaths get stuck because they no longer know where to go. You are so lucky because you can see the opportunity. We have somewhere to go. Yeah, David had somebody to beat. That is what inspired him, yeah? Goliath took David for granted because nobody else could beat Goliath, yeah? You have somewhere to go and you are so dangerous even to the people who you think are your competition because of that. We're able to make decisions faster, be more adaptable. We're able to have better working cultures because we're able to understand employees. We now know people don't have to be tied 8 to 5, but big companies are struggling to make that shift. You don't have to struggle to make that shift. Me, I'm in a business where all of us for the last 4 months have been working at home, but we're still delivering. We have the advantages because we are still, the people closest to the business are still in the business. You as the founder or you with your immediate team. While many companies, a lot of people who work in many of these Goliath companies, you ask them, what's the mission statement of that company? They don't know, because the people closest to your business are in the business. Customers feel they can connect to the value proposition that this business has faster and better. You don't have to put a big billboard up to communicate that. Just a phone call with yourself communicates it. So we are more connected to the customer. You're not going to do big rebranding, but yet nothing changes. You can operate from anywhere. I've been out of Nairobi. I'm out of Nairobi a month, and I'm still here. I'm still working, yeah? And when you start thinking like this, the collective financial result of thinking like this is that you realize, and Salum was asking, even when you say you have money, what is it really for? Yeah, can an intern do what you're thinking? You have to hire somebody for 1,000. Yeah, so we are able to think like that because we are not wrapped up in too much bureaucracy about it. So my personal story in this way of life, yeah, and I've made many mistakes, is I've been able to transition. And I think in Centonomy Entrepreneur, what we are teaching you is to be able to even run a business that works without you. Most big businesses are not able to do that, yeah? And this has come from, even as an entrepreneur, accepting your seasons. When your season has changed, and as many of us, our season is changing, it's putting our ego aside. I put my ego aside and realize I can't do it all. I like doing this, I'm good at it, but as the business becomes more process-driven and operational, I can't do it all by myself. That's not my core strength. So working with a good team, it has taken bringing the right people, and even how you hire the right people is different. It's not just about a CV. You test them on the job. Those are David moves. You test them. Yeah, you're not hiring a degree, you're hiring aptitude. Yeah, just the financial discipline we've been talking about today, and understanding this business is about the why, and hence what is the foundation of that why is always seek to build a brand. And a brand is not your logo, it's not your business card. A brand is, what does the customer consistently say about you? That's what you have to focus on. If you're starting with one customer, do that. If you have 10 customers, let those 10 customers say that consistently about you. 100, let them consistently say that about you. And that is actually how the new way of businesses are actually going to thrive, because COVID has stopped us in our tracks from being Goliath. So if you're aiming to be that company, you are aiming to be like, investigate. There are some good things that are in the Goliath-like companies, but what don't you want for yourself? Because you don't want this to become a heavy thing that depresses you, because sometimes we run businesses and then we start resenting the very same business we started because it did not fulfill the why that we were doing it. Don't aim just to be big, aim to be different, yeah? David became a legendary story. What will you be known for? What will your business become a blueprint for? And all this is process. This is 11 years of talk. This is 11 years of me talking. It's a process. It will take order. Yeah. And that's why order is so important. Financial order, business order, processes. It takes order. And it is not instant, yeah? So what we do, I think, through the Centonomy Entrepreneur is that we get you to define what is a great business according to you, yeah? What is a great business? Especially now we are really in this frame of let's challenge the systems that are around us and not necessarily copy them. And then, it's really about the definition of the business and design of the business, no matter where it is you're going to start the program. So Kingori, I know I've taken a bit more than my time, but thank you very much for giving me some time to speak today. And as usual, it's always an honor to talk to entrepreneurs. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Waceke. I wish you're going through the chat.
I'm opening them now.
It's definitely lit. And people are really loving the analogy of David and Goliath,
Yeah,
and more so
yeah.
at this period of time.
Yeah,
But I want, before I release you, to ask one question, which
yeah,
you began a conversation around, the
yeah,
personal, the
yeah,
why.
yeah, yeah.
How important is it as an entrepreneur to believe in what I'm doing, beyond that the numbers are going to be fantastic, it's a good idea, but as an
Yeah,
individual, why is it important for me to believe in the business I'm
yeah.
getting into?
I love you use that word. And even in the first class, we call it the entrepreneur mindset that I teach. We go through something called conviction. And I think that's what you're talking about. Because sometimes conviction is not even logical. Yeah, I could have done my research and everything. Yeah, what I was convicted about. And when people time quiet, remove the noise. This is not about what have other people told you. When I got in touch with what I was convicted about, it's this thing of, people who, it's only those people who can create wealth or run proper businesses. This particular program was convicted, this ratio of 4 out of 5 businesses fail. So my conviction is, despite the fact, is that everybody can create wealth. So I think it is so important because, first of all, Kingori, running a business, there are ups and downs. Today we're talking about money. Money does not come instantly, and even when it comes, it can be there this month, and 3 months from now, there's nothing. Yeah. So it's that conviction. Secondly, when you're convicted about something, you may not have the best marketing consultant in the world. You may not have the biggest billboard in the world, but your customer, people can tell authenticity. That is what becomes so different and authentic about you. People can tell that. So you may not have all the infrastructure in the world that you say, when I grow, I need this, but people can tell. And that will be why they say, between the two of them, I'm going to go with this one, because you're not going to do business. You're going to end up, you're not going to do business with everybody, but you're going to start doing businesses with people who tend to believe what you believe. Yeah. So it has been so important. And once you've plugged into that why, you start seeing the various areas. My first why was through personal finance. Yeah, that was whatever. But as I went, we started seeing, okay, university students. We started seeing teenagers. We started seeing entrepreneurs. We started seeing helping people in their careers. So you can see how that why is the one that that has channeled everything, and it gets you to look past your resources. I started doing this business in the worst financial period of my life, which is such an oxymoron, because I'm here helping people plan money. I am broke. Yeah? So the world tells us, no, until you have a portfolio of properties and things like that, that is when you can help people with money. But no, the conviction got me to push myself past the resources that I had.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, we've had a fantastic session. Thank you so much, Waceke. I also want to invite you to just jump in on the chat. There's a lot of comments. A lot of people are just like, yes. Waceke, I think people have been looking forward to having you engage. Guys, really, you have gotten it, and you have heard from Waceke herself, and she's actually watching us. So I want to take us into continuing this conversation. And I also want to quote what Victor put on the chat. We need to think about big differently. As we go through this program, there's a question that Frederick was asking on our social media. Are you able to come on board to learn from Western region? The beautiful thing about this program is that it's now fully online. So you remember John was saying how he used to commute from Eldoret. Now you can join us from anywhere, literally anywhere in the world, whatever your circumstances are. And our next class is beginning on 9th of September. And there's a beautiful, beautiful discount around this whole COVID period. And the whole conversation continues. And you may be wondering, what is this conversation? What is this delivery that we're going to have? How am I going to grow? First thing about it, as Waceke has mentioned, she will actually take the sessions. The people who come into the classes to teach and to essentially is not even to teach, is to share their entrepreneurial journeys, are seasoned entrepreneurs. So when they speak not as a motivational speaker, but as somebody who's actually doing the practice. And you begin a whole conversation around, how do I get into this entrepreneurial mindset. How do I become an entrepreneur? What is it all about? How do I crystallize? And you've heard from John Kikonde, Salum, and Waceke, the whole idea around how you realize that I have an idea that can translate into a business. But also you as an individual, how do you move forward? This is a difficult time. Waceke has just mentioned for her, she started it at a difficult time in her own personal life. COVID is a difficult situation that we're finding ourselves. You're trying to think around the issues. How do you get into this space? And it's a difficult time. Do you have the skills? Do you have the money? You're looking at Goliath, and Goliath is huge. They are heavy. They have scared everybody else. Why you? And we go through a whole session around that. How are you going to even engage with the strategy? How do you there were questions that were coming on the chat. How do I get out there? How do I make people know? I like what John said about KJ Barbershop. How if you Google salons in Eldoret, his will come up. Why? Because he's taken a critical learning from the trade digital marketing. Today, if you don't exist in the digital space, you might as well not exist. You may have a wonderful office, wonderful product, but at the digital space is the new marketplace. So how do you get into that space? Maybe you're like me and your first Zoom account happened when COVID happened. And you're wondering, I mean, where do I start? What platform do I go on? There's so many. Does it mean now that I have to start dancing? And we take you through that conversation. We take you through the conversation that Salum was bringing insight into your working capital. Kikonde mentioned having a seed capital. Salum mentioned angel investors, debt, working around how do you raise capital, the money issues, the actual fundamental finance. And it's a critical element. You go through all of those components so that when you get out as a business owner, and that's what KJ was saying, you as the owner, it can be as simple as having a cash book. I had this amount in the morning, I have this amount in the evening. This is my net position. And to grow that into understanding what is my income statement, what is my balance sheet, what is my cash flow statement. So that then when you begin the conversation of trying to understand, is my business profitable? Are my margins making sense? Are my cash flow positive? You understand what these things are about because they're an important element. Tax. The only two things that are certain in life is death and taxes. You must pay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. You will raise capital. How do you go about that conversation? Personal finance, you, the individual, is really a critical element for us to be able to appreciate you as an individual entrepreneur. How are you dealing with your own personal finance? How do you get into this abundant mindset, which is something that has consistently come through? Your life does not stop because you've gotten into business and should not stop. So how do you manage the money of the business versus your own personal business, your own personal money? How I like what Salum was talking about. Are you investing? Yes, you have cut down on your expenditure. Yes, you have grown your revenue, but are you investing so that in the future, should you need that income, you're able to find it? Finally, one of the critical things that has been mentioned all through, team. You cannot do this on your own. You cannot do this on your own, be it your suppliers, be it your financiers, be it the people that you engage with, be it your customers, be it the team that you bring around you. So finally, when you're through with a course, you have that opportunity to engage with other business people, to learn from one another and to grow. I really like that one of the people who was giving KJ a shout out was one of the alumni who was in class with him, and just to celebrate each other. And we want to give you that opportunity. So we have talked a lot, we have shared a lot, but really, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it boils down to. You have this opportunity. You have an opportunity to be able to acquire the skills. You have the opportunity to be able to acquire the information and to be able to speak, like KJ was saying, that I started at 2 million and I'm looking at 8.3 and I'm looking to grow at 15 million. You're looking at an opportunity, you're able to sit before Salum and to share your numbers, to be able to share your thoughts, and he's able to engage you as an investor. You're able to go to a bank, and you're able to understand what they're putting out to you. But also, like Waceke, that you can tell your story of how you've transitioned. And I think that's also an important thing for an entrepreneur, that you can grow out of your business, but your business continues to exist and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you now move from a side hustle to an actual business or an actual entity that you can be so proud about. So, ladies and gentlemen, really, this is what it boils down to. You have a fantastic opportunity to do this. We have a special offer for you today. If you sign up today, and I know Ruby is on the call here, you have her number there, you have her email, get in touch. Get in touch. We have a special offer for you today. If you sign up today, the registration fee is 1,200 Kenya shillings. If you're joining us from overseas, it's 12 US dollars. For those of you who may want to pay in installments, there are 3 installments, each of 15,000. It's also broken down into USD, and we can get in touch with you. This offer is for you guys who are able to sign up today. So I encourage you, based on what you've heard today, to make that decision, to change your entrepreneurial journey. We have classes twice a week on Wednesday and Saturday, so you can pick the slot that works for you. And the beauty is that these sessions are all online, so it's convenient. It can be at a time and a location, so you can join from anywhere. If you have people in diaspora who you think need to hear this, please send them a shout. I also want to recognize that we have guys who joined us from as far as Dar es Salaam, Uganda, and Rwanda. Really shout out to you guys for joining us. So you're able to engage with us from wherever you are. And we really are just so happy to be able to have been part of you today. I want to say a personal thank you for this time that we've had, the session that we have engaged with. As I close you out, really it's just to welcome you to come on board. It's 1,200 today, which is a special 20% discount on the lockdown, 12 US dollars if you're out there. Karibu sana. You're also welcome to engage in paying in installments. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this platform, Zoom. Also want to thank you for all those who are able to join us on our social media pages, all those who are sending out the tweets, liking and on Instagram and other platforms, also those who are able to join on YouTube. A very, very special thank you to the Centonomy team who've been in the background, to Tessie, to Ruby. Thank you so much for all the work that you have done to enable us to be up and about. Also to say a big, big thank you to each and every one of our excellent entrepreneurs and speakers for sharing your story. To Kikonde, to KJ, to Salum, to Waceke, really a special thank you to sharing with us your story. And finally, to all those who are going to join, I look forward to seeing you in class, in session, and to growing your business. With that, I bid you a good afternoon and an excellent weekend as you entrepreneurs manage the money in your business. Thank you so much and have an excellent day. We're still here. Please feel free to engage with Ruby and the team on the chat, and as we continue on with the afternoon. Thank you so much. My name has been Kingori. It's been a pleasure to have been your moderator. Thank you so much. And thank you for the comments. Have an excellent weekend.